I'm Tanya Smith, and this is Stream Like a Boss. I feel like it's been forever, y'all, so I am really super excited to be here with you. I couldn't wait to get back to you. Hopefully, everything is well with you and yours. Look, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about something that is definitely related to the topic of live stream marketing. And if you haven't ever watched this show before, what I need to tell you is that's what Stream Like a Boss TV is all about. So we focus on live stream marketing strategies to help coaches, content creators, and a lot of times most of us are part-time, so we do it in that context, but part-time content creators, coaches, and other service providers to really leverage live video that's on camera with your face video so that you can serve more people, stand out online, right, and sell more of your services. And so tonight I want to talk about the internet and security and safety and stability and all the things, but I am absolutely not the expert in that space. So I brought an expert friend with me. Richard Sarkissian is an internet expert plus some. There's a whole long title that he has, and he's going to explain to you what he does and what his expertise is. I'm going to bring him on in just a second. But let me ask you this. If you're an OG, that means that you have been here before. You've watched the show before. So I want you to type in hashtag OG. I already see one from my boy Dan in the house. It's good to see you, sir. If you are new to this space, type in #newbie. If you've never watched the show before, you haven't been with us live before, I want you to type in hashtag newbie. And we want to make sure to acknowledge you. Now, one of the things I'm about to do is to share a really short video clip. And on the other side of that clip, you get to meet Richard, but I want to tell you this. Have your notepad and your pen ready. Get your favorite hydration ready. You're probably going to have some questions. I know I will. So I want you to pop those up so that we can share them with Richard and get his knowledge. Look, this is a good time for you to learn from somebody who knows the things that you need to know about keeping yourself and your internet safe. Because the internet, frankly, is how we actually do our streams, right? It's how we share our voice on video. Mommy Lala, good to see you. OG in the house. I love it. I love it. Okay, y'all. On the other side of this video, you get to meet Richard. We're going to get started. And again, get your questions ready. I'll see you shortly. Sir, it is Richard in the house. You got to tell me if I'm pronouncing your name correctly or incorrectly. Richard Sarkissian?
Perfect.
Ha!
Absolutely perfect.
It's a win. Look, Richard, that clap is more for you than it is for me because I know that you have a lot of knowledge up in here and that you have been in the space that you play for a long time. We've had some conversations and you go deep in this world of the internet. So I definitely want to hear from you a little bit about your bio and if you can tell the people what your expertise is and what you're going to be talking about tonight, that would be awesome. I see some highs, some hello. I will also, as comments are popping up and as questions are coming through, which I know we'll get some, y'all put them in the chat because I'll make sure that Richard is able to see those and respond to them. And if you're watching the replay, please still go ahead and put your questions and your comments in place because we'll make sure that we come back and take a look and, respond to those and acknowledge you there as well. All right. So, Richard, take it away. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what's your expertise.
Thank you, Tanya. Thanks for having me on your show. I know we've been working on this for a little bit, and it's a pleasure. Thank you.
You too, of course.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Richard Sarkissian. I've been in this industry, in the networking industry, well, I'm not going to date myself, but a little over 28 years. I started, originally I started when I finished school doing TV and radio broadcasting. But then I got into another, segment of that because I thought computers were good. And so I had a great opportunity to go with a startup and seeing the internet evolve, from CompuServe, getting those AOL CDs every day in the mail, trying to entice you to log in. So I did it, got my 30 floppies and installed Windows 3.1, put my computer together, and I thought that was excellent because I was able to learn myself, and I learned better at tinkering around with stuff. So ever since then, I've been intrigued by, how the internet works and computer technology, administration, emails, and all that. And that evolved. Wow. Just like the telephone, right? You had that rotary dial, then you went to DSL, and then you went to fiber. So everything has changed, and all that comes with technology. So that's been a thing for me to catch up. So I've been all over the world doing this type of work, for all kinds of companies all over the world. So that's another opportunity to travel as well. So I've been in this, and it's very exciting. It's dynamic. It's never static, which means, every day is different. So
Yeah, I can
keeps it
imagine.
good.
Because look, everything in the internet space has changed in the span of, heck, a month, not just years. It is constantly changing. And it kind of seems, it's almost like a scary place sometimes. Because the average person, including myself in there, as an average person, we just know a little bit. We know enough to be dangerous. We know enough to get ourselves on video, to get ourselves on streams. But there are absolutely some questions that I know I have around making sure that I'm doing the right thing to keep my information private and safe, making sure that I am doing all that I can to have stability for great streams. There's all these different questions around the safety, security, and stability. And I know you have some things to talk to us about tonight. So what's kind of the theme of what you want to share with us in terms of tips? And then I'm going to let you dive into some of that.
Well, for friends and family primarily, I've noticed equipment that are very old, and they just been constantly just upgrading everything else except that stuff. Technology is getting faster and faster and faster, and that equipment can't keep up. And then always complain about slowness and why this and why that during certain times of the day. And everybody complains to the cable company, right? And you waste your time, hours and hours troubleshooting and paying that dollar, a couple dollars to come out to your house and tell you that, hey, everything's good, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But they really don't get to the part where analyzing what's going on. They just concerned about the signal going from the house to your cable box or to the block in the back of your TV or your cable box. From there it's up to you because they always blame your equipment if there's a problem, right?
Yep.
So, I've seen primarily struggle with internet memory usage, right? Because right now everything is being digitally sent, and you have data going back and forth, and that data can be unsynchronized, right? It will start slow, and then as you go, it'll just keep going out of sync until it's all over the place, and then you start noticing a problem. So primarily, what I tell folks is, hey, let's see if there's an update for that cable modem. Maybe call the company and say, hey, I had this thing for 30 years. It's time to change it. It's 5 feet by 3 feet. Weighs a ton, and fans are loud. And that will help as well. So changing out your equipment. And also I've seen some of those routers, that have like 20 antennas on it, everywhere, and all kinds of stuff. That's all cool, but what does that happen inside? Right? How does that data being separated?
What are some of the most common questions? Because I know you actually do troubleshooting with folks in terms of their home studio and their setup, the internet stability piece itself. And I know you're going to talk about a tool or a device that you use in a brand that you really support. But what are some common, if you had to come up with like one or two of the most common questions that people say, hey, I need your help with this. What are the two questions that you most commonly get?
the common question I always get is, why is my internet so slow
Yep.
during this time of the day, right? After school, when everybody's home during the day, it's good, but certain times of the day, it just struggles, right?
Yep.
And the pipe that you're getting into your house is only so big, right? If you have a family of 5 or 4 or 3, everybody wants a cut of that pipe, right?
Yep.
So that's where you get into directing your traffic, right? So directing your traffic, let's say, everybody's watching Netflix, or Apple TV, Amazon, playing video games, and man, you're doing 4K downloads, and then you get to start doing your stream, and it's shaking, jittery,
Mm-hmm.
and you're noticing, packets are getting, your frame is getting all messed up. So, and I tell people, let's see what's going on, right? Let's see how many people you have, what's your signal, your bandwidth, how old is your equipment, and then I get into, look, this hardware that you have here, it's not able to keep up with the bunch of memory that's being sent to it back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you've had this, equipment for so long. So we'll start with that. If they don't want to get too fancy, I'll help them with getting into that router, because when you get into there, I don't know if a lot of people have, but it gets intimidating. There's so many buttons in there to check, and you kind of get confused. And if you check the wrong button, you might make things worse, and then you get locked out. So having that ability to walk through and tuning what I can with what equipment they have,
Mm-hmm.
does help, right? But primarily, I'm in, for me, I'm into directing traffic, to signal, because I think everybody needs to have their own bandwidth, right? Like, we'll get more into this, but let's say everybody's sharing your same Wi-Fi signal, right? You got the kids playing Xbox, you got the wife watching Apple TV, you're doing this, doing that, and not everybody needs to have full bandwidth. So, you can segment that into different categories. So let's say the kids can have the kids' Wi-Fi, you can have the main Wi-Fi, the guests can have their own Wi-Fi.
I want
So
you
that
to
way,
pause for a second right there, what you said, because a question popped up in here. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there's a question, and I want to acknowledge some folks too for joining us
James,
tonight so we could say hello. But a question popped up along that line, and I want your thoughts on it. It's from James Hicks. Sir James Hicks, what's up?
how
What
you
are
doing,
your
James?
thoughts on network segmentation? Do you put some stuff on 2.4 versus 5 gigs? That is a question I have as well. Before you get to that question, let me say hello to a few folks really quickly. Mommy Guide Incorporated said hello. You know that
Hey,
Dan, the honest accomplice, came back and said, Bald is beautiful. Gotta love Dan. Irene acknowledged as an OG. Jay Dooley's in the house with some heart. Green heart right there. And then you saw Carlos Phoenix had a note too and was really kind of echoing what you're saying, that nodes can only handle so much internet. But let's go to James's question so we can kind of dive a little bit more into what you just ended with around the segmentation. How do you have thoughts on that network segmentation, and what does that mean to the average person? What is that even about?
so 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. So the equipment that I recommend does the 2.4 and 5, depending on your signal strength, automatically. Because back in the day, you would have two signals, one for 2.4, one for 5. So if you're far away, like in a basement, you would probably select a 2.4, because that gives you more distance, but your speed is not going to be the best. 5 would be if you're really close and you want a full throughput. So some of the equipment that I use and recommend automatically switch in the background between what's best for you. So if it's so that way your Wi-Fi name, it only has one name. I don't know if you noticed, but sometimes you got home 2.4 or
Mm-hmm.
home 5 point, 5 gigahertz, whatever, and you switch between that, and that's kind of complicated because you don't want to be doing that all the time. So some of the equipment does that automatically. Access points switch your bandwidth based on where you are and what's best for you without noticing anything.
I know before I ended up getting an Eero mesh system, I think I had that issue. I had the internet path. I could either choose one or the other, and I was like, I don't know. And I was just guessing. Well, let me figure out which one I need to use. But I don't have that issue anymore. And part of what helped me to really get more stability in my own home was just to be able to look. I did a lot of research on mesh networks and did first, I think I had Google Nest. Then I ended up going to the Eero.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the most current version of the Eero is, I have that now. Is that
So yeah, so meshing network and having an access point depends on your situation, right? A mesh you can just plug in because you can't run a hard line to it. So you just want to be able to include that in your signal. But if you're able to run a wire somewhere, either around the outside of the attic and into an access point, then that's better because you have the full Ethernet cable coming out of that access point straight into your router, and you don't have to mesh or include that in your signal, right? Because that mesh will mesh into your current signal that you have on the air, right? So an access point will give you that hard line capability right into the back of your cable modem or to your switch. So you have full bandwidth on that access point. You can have as many as you want, right? Some people have one upstairs in the kitchen, basement, garage, outside, so you can walk around everywhere and be good. And does automatic switching all by itself.
But does that even help at all if you start with bad internet in the first place?
Well,
and I'm asking this question for a friend or two because let me say this, Richard. I have folks that are in different rural parts of of America, and they're like, I have just really crap internet, and I can't do anything to make it work. So what's the advice for them if they just start out with a bad service provider who's just, like Carlos mentioned, throttling or doing, not having great practices of delivering the internet?
Well, first you got to identify if it's the cable, right? If it's the service, because you might have. Oh, sorry. 1 second.
Okay.
All right. So you might have stuff in the background that's running, that's hogging up that bandwidth, right? Because people have computers for forever and they just keep upgrading and not doing anything else but upgrading and going on from there. So all that stuff there gets layered on and layered on. And you might have stuff that's running in the background that you don't know. It could be running constantly. It could be running certain times of the day. It could be during what you're doing. Like if you're doing this will trigger it. So it's best to know what's happening in the back before you get to the front. So you would understand where you're sending out, because if you're sending out packets like crazy, you can't keep up with what's coming in, right? Because you're constantly trying to synchronize that data.
What's a packet? Can you explain that in plain English, Tanya words? Because I don't know what that is. I just know how to make the thing work, but what does that mean?
So a packet, would be like a transmission. So every packet of data that you're sending, like ones and zeros, basically go out, and the other end will acknowledge it, right? Okay. So you're sending, acknowledge. So what happens in a thing called retransmission is that you send the send, and the other end acknowledges. That goes back and forth, but then suddenly you're out of order. So you're sending 3 of them, but you're only getting 2 of them. So it's gotta, so slowly that jitter will start going down because you're not receiving as fast as you're sending, right? So then you're out of order. So they call that a retransmission, packets that are going out but not synchronized coming back in, right? And that just gets worse and worse and worse. So that could be a program, that could be something running, somewhere on your network that's causing that to happen. And that's the part where you need to find out what's happening, because it maybe not all the time is the provider. It could be what you're what's happening on your network. And a lot of people don't get into that because it's intimidating to get into your cable modem and looking at settings advanced, because they just give you the stuff that they want you to give, like their own DNS servers,
Yeah.
which, which a DNS, which does your transition from an IP address to a name and vice versa, because everybody can remember a name versus a long number, especially when you get into IPv6, you have very long numbers. And so it's like a phone book basically.
So you're
And
saying first thing we have to check is our equipment old? Second thing we need to look into is don't assume that it's the internet service provider. It could be that there's something going on within our own programs and things that we're using on our systems. Okay. And then what else?
And then I would look at, what is your goals? Okay. So you have a big family and everybody likes to be on internet at the same time. And you only can afford maybe 40 up, 40 down, let's say 40 megabits going up and 40 going down. And everybody wants a cut of that, that signal. So if your equipment is able to cut that signal up to say, hey, I'm streaming a lot, so I need more of that packet. I need more of that pipe. So give me more of that, but give the kids that are playing Xbox, lower them a little bit so they don't hoggle that, because that stuff, I look at the network and man, that thing is really going crazy with the amount of packets coming in, data that's coming in, especially, the way things are now with graphics. It's incredible how much internet is being used, and all the other stuff that kids use, like was it Steam or something like that? You add stuff to your game, so it just gets crazy. So, if you're able to do that, I would get into that and see how you can spread those packets around, and you can throttle on your end, right?
And say, hey, I want to assign more of this over here to me. Or, frankly, I'm going to tell you what I do is tell my kids, don't do any of that while mom is streaming. Like, this is my hour. So, do light work, work on your homework. We're not playing PlayStation. Right? We're not doing any of that.
Yeah. And the best thing is if you're able to do that, you can, give everybody their own Wi-Fi channel, right? Kids network, the guest network, and Tanya's network, right? And you can split up the signal so that everybody has their own cut of that pie, so that helps. But mostly it's understanding what's going out, before it hits that cable box. And that's where, it gets interesting, because you need to know what you're looking for, and a lot of people, there's just a lot of data to go through, and you got to understand all these packets that are going through and queries and this and that, and especially your DNS. That's the other thing. So DNS is domain name server or service, which basically takes your name, a name or an IP address, and puts it to a name. And so that gets out, and that's being translated, and then goes out, finds the closest place, and sends it back to you, right? And all that, it's encrypted. And most people I've seen like to use Google Internet, the quad 8s and the 9s and the 1s, or other providers. And some cable modem companies give you their own DNS servers that you get from them. It might not be the best, but if you want reliability, speed, and privacy, because you don't know what they're capturing, from what you're doing. And some providers don't log that or encrypt it. So, what is it? DNS over HTTPS, which encrypts your data that's going out from you to the other end. So there's no malicious or anybody interfering or capturing that data like a middleman, capturing your data. Because, nowadays people are really sneaky, and they go around. Well, that's it's people like when they have Wi-Fi, they don't change their credentials on the cable modem, so they leave it the way it is default.
Yeah.
Right, and it gets broadcasted. And there's I'm not saying everybody, but there's some sneaky people out there who run around trying to do bad things to everybody.
And so you're saying, like, when a company, let's say for instance, because we use Frontier, we've also got Spectrum here. There's a couple of different companies in the Dallas area, but when they deliver your router, it automatically or instantly has a password already assigned. And you're saying that sometimes people don't go in and assign their own. And so these bad actors could either be familiar with what's already being used for these routers that are being put in your homes and they can get access that way. Is there a best practice or a suggestion on what you should do when you get a new device or a new router from a company like that?
Yeah. So what I would do is first change the password, right, on it. So it's not something that they generate, because anybody, can generate any type of sequence and try to brute force and get you attacked. I'm not saying that you should be worried about it, but it's a peace of mind to know that you change your password and maybe create a backup account so you can log in case something happens to that main account.
Okay. Because
That's the
I
first thing
know,
I would always do.
like, there's a lot of folks that are going to be in this feed that are going to be like, DNS, HTTPS, what? So
Yeah. So
we
yeah.
need your help breaking this down. And I'm going to pop a couple of more comments in here because I see some
Sure.
folks. Yeah, mommy said, Mommy Lala, hi, Dan James and Jay Dooley, what's up? Carlos says, also, internet providers don't match upload and download. Wi-Fi can have So he's basically kind of signing off on some of the things that you've already talked about. So even a speed check won't reveal everything. Yeah, and that's the question: is how do we make sure we're stable? How do we make sure we're safe, and that we're getting the speed that we want, especially as it relates to streaming? And so, what would you say would be things that people really need to just kind of be conscientious about, including the things we've already talked about? What are some other things, Richard, as far as your advice, that people who don't know all the acronyms and numbers, where do they
So,
start to learn?
well, uh, you know, on your internet browser, you got that padlock now, right? That means that your internet site that you're logging into is locked and secured, and you can check this certificate by clicking on that lock, and it'll tell you that it is signed by a certificate agency, where whoever that might be, and also I would check to see what DNS server you're assigned to, right? And that could be seen, either if you have a Mac, you can check your network settings and see what it has, or if it's Windows, you check your network properties. I think it is in there. It's been a while since I played with Windows, and I would suggest looking at other DNS providers, because everybody uses Google, and they're inundated. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad, but there's also performance and content delivery networks that they have, because everybody tangles up or incorporates with AWS, with Akamai, a bunch of providers that share, cloud services everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I would recommend to see what you're using for your DNS server, and go check out Cloudflare. Cloudflare it's a free provider, right? It
Yep.
offers your free service, and you can use their DNS information or servers for free, and it's pretty fast and reliable. Now you can check that with some tools. I like to use a thing called Ping Plotter. It gives you a 14-day, I think, trial that you can use, and you can run it. Let's say you want to check the performance between you and, say, YouTube.com, right? And then
Oh.
it'll give you a nice chart, and it'll run for 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see how many places that you're going to before you reach YouTube. So you could be
Mm-hmm.
going, say, if you're using maybe Google or Verizon or whoever, and switch between different DNS servers, you can see that the amount of hops that you're going to different places may decrease, get you there quicker, versus having to go to 50 different places to get to that one spot, right?
Does
So that
that
will
increase
minimize.
your, does that help you with the whole stability thing so that,
So less interference coming back, because you're not going through 15 hops or 10 hops trying to get back to you, right?
Okay.
Because DNS is cloud-based, so you're basically geolocated. So basically, wherever you are, you're pointing to the nearest device that's in your region, right? So, and everybody uses different providers, but I like to have people look at Cloudflare. Cloudflare offers high performance. They don't log your data like Google, because Google tracks what you're searching and logs everything. And for me, I get enough ads and stuff, which is okay, but I want to be able to minimize that, because I know everybody needs to have ads and make money, but I don't like to be, depending on what I'm doing, I don't like to be tracked, and seeing what I like and don't like. And Cloudflare doesn't do that. There's other providers out there, but I like Cloudflare because you can pay, the free service allows you to content protect, right? Children, protecting them from going to sites that they shouldn't be, right? Without doing anything, you can say, I want to block anything related to drugs and alcohol. So if they start searching for that kind of stuff, it'll be blocked. It won't get out. So yeah, you can really get into analyzing and stopping different packets of data or searches, using Cloudflare's basic free plan. And if you want to go from there, there's different tiers. It's pretty good. I recommend it.
Now, I know you were going to talk about something called Ubiquity.
Yeah.
Are you ready to talk about that?
Let's do it.
Okay. So first of all, what is it?
So Ubiquity is a company that offers a bunch of equipment based for consumer and for commercial, but their commercials are good for residential companies or your own self, right? Because I think their cost and price is not that bad. I mean, you're talking a few $100s to get started, right? So Ubiquity offers you your firewall, your gateway, right?
Okay.
Which all this stuff goes before your cable modem, right? So anything that's coming and going goes through that and out your cable modem out. So everything's protected. So you have that brick wall.
So you're connecting that to your existing cable modem.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Your cable modem, you unplug it, plug it into the Ubiquity, which could be a gateway, could be a switch, a router. So they come in small little devices, depending on what you want. If you want 3 or 4 ports, you plug it into that. And the nice thing about that is you can gain access to it anywhere. So if there's a problem at home, you can get in there and tweak it up a little bit. And then they offer access points. So access points are those little saucer shaped things that you see on ceilings of companies. Yeah, got that fancy little light on there. Those are access points, and they offer ones that you plug into the wall, where you have access to an Ethernet cable, or you can do it on your ceiling. So they offer a wide range of consumer-based products, from firewall gateways to access points. And what makes them nice is that you can access them anytime, right? If there's a problem, because I do get calls from at home saying, hey, the internet's not working, or this is not working right. So you can fix it, and you get alarms too. So the nice thing about that is the built-in internet protection service. So any content that's coming in and out, whether it's malicious or if it's known to be malicious, it's blocked automatically. So you're preventing that data from going out, right? Because nowadays people have a lot of click on everything, right? And if you click on something and it's bad, it'll stop it, and you'll get an alert saying, hey, traffic from this person was blocked. That's nice, because you don't have that anywhere else. I mean, on regular stuff that you get, you just don't have that.
Vidtor was here in the Philippines, and he had set up my home with Ubiquity.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really affordable, and I recommend checking out stuff called if you go there, there's a thing called the Dream Machine. I think Victor talks about that sometimes. He has that. I know he has that Dream Machine stuff at his place. So it's well It's well known out there in the industry, and the cost point is really good.
And the point of it is primarily to secure your data, but also you mentioned access points. So is it also to help you to have more stable internet or access throughout different points of your home?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Because for
so you're
me, I have this dead spot. Well, I
hmm
used to before I got this mesh thing put in place with access points. But dead spot always in the back, the downstairs back bedroom corner. If anybody tries to do anything internet related, it was like, nope, can't
yeah,
can't read it.
yeah,
So the access points allow you to even out that internet access throughout the home or wherever it is that you're putting these things, right?
right. And also, you can also adjust the power that you're sending out, right? Because you don't want to broadcast full power, because that could bleed into your kitchen, and then you start getting that interference, right? If your
Uh,
signal is too strong. So you got to look at it does come with a tool that you run, go around the house, and it'll tell you, you're broadcasting too strong in this area, lower it a little bit and increase this area a little bit higher, or switch to a different channel.
hmm.
Because some people just automatically want to go full throttle, right? And then all of a sudden you got a big wide mesh of signal that are interfering together, which gives you that interference, right? So the tweaking that to give the right power, not necessarily full power all the time, but maybe you need a medium uh, power wattage, for that particular area.
So, like
So,
in a, and I'm curious, Mommy Lala, I wonder how that changed the situation for you once you had that installed. Did that help? Because I know when I was visiting the Philippines, because my husband's there a lot of the time, when we went to visit him, internet was really sketchy in most of the places where we were. So I'm wondering if that does help, especially if you're in other countries. What about if you're traveling, Richard? How can you help improve the stability? Because I'm assuming you can't just like take a ubiquity device, maybe you can, and connect it wherever you are. But what are some things you can do when you're streaming remotely that will help you to have a stable internet and secure
well,
data?
yeah. So unfortunately, you're dependent on the hotels or your place of where you're being occupied on what they're controlling. Uh, if you have the ability to plug in, like I know every hotel's got Wi-Fi, but mostly they have one, an Ethernet jack in the back, behind the desk or at the TV. It's all coiled up because no one uses it. Pull that out, plug it in instead of using, their Wi-Fi. Because sometimes, depending on where your room is, if you're way in the back, by the other end of the elevator, the signal is very, very weak. I've noticed
Mm.
where I've been. So if sometimes there isn't even a cable there because no one uses it. So I always carry a, 20, 30 foot Ethernet cable that plug right in and go right into my laptop. And
Hmm.
that helps a lot.
I hadn't even thought about that. How do
hmm
you make sure that that's because here's one of the things, this is a rumor, but I think it's real. You know how there's this scary thing about when you're traveling, airports, hotels, public places that you don't really get to monitor or own or set up. Plugging into things scares me. So so what
Yes.
would I do to be sure that my stuff is protected if I'm plugging into the hotel ethernet? Or is there nothing I can do?
Well, if
Cuz you
you're at the airport, I would never plug in your phone into those little cabinet things that you put $1 in, and put your phone in there. I'll
mhm.
never do that. Right. I always use my spare battery pack, that I use all the time because I don't trust anything that's
Same.
out there. Right.
Yeah.
Because there's also, you don't know what they're tracking. And also a lot of people like to have their Bluetooth on or their hotspot on,
Mhm.
and that's being broadcast as well. So, it's crazy at the airport because you never think there's people that do these things, but yeah, they pry, like, a story I heard the other day, which is interesting. Someone had their ticket of their airplane, flight going to
I
wherever,
saw that.
and the dude took a picture of that ticket and used that to
Yeah.
get on the plane, right? So you got to watch out because people are always out there trying to take a picture of something,
Yeah, he was
or
going through
look
and
at your PIN
scanning
number.
people's electronic boarding passes, y'all.
Hmm.
This was on the news within the last like 24 to 48 hours, but he was scanning different people as they had their tickets pulled up on their phones. He was scanning their phones, and then he ended up using one of those the digital boarding pass image to get on a plane and hid in the bathroom. So check that
Yeah,
out.
and we gave it up because there was no the flight was full, and that guy had nowhere to sit.
Yep.
So that's how he got caught. But otherwise, if there was a place to sit, he would have just kept going, right? So
I
yeah,
see Mommy
watch out.
Lala put a couple of comments in here, and I wanted to know from you. Let's see, internet has been so much better from anywhere in the house, and the wires on the floor gone too. I know, right?
Hmm.
We make things work though, don't we, Mommy? Let's see. I'm from the capital, so I have fiber 500 up and down, but the problem were dead spots. Yep. And he
Yep.
added access points too. That's awesome. That's the reason why your streams are so nice and stable. But other parts of the country, internet is still not okay. Okay, this is a question I have too. So, would having VPN help when you're traveling, especially let's say in the hotel rooms? Because I agree, it makes sense to me what you said about airports. I don't plug into anything at an airport because I actually had two of my credit cards, a credit card and debit card, stolen digitally at an airport.
Hmm.
I know this for a fact because the very next day after I left the airport, both of my numbers were used. And I never
Yeah.
pulled them out of my wallet. And I had an RFID wallet protector and all of that. So I know that happened at the airport. I'm super just paranoid at airports. But
Hmm.
at a hotel room, VPN?
Yes and no.
Mm,
So things like NordVPN, right? That's just another bridge that you got to go through to
mm,
go through the other side to your endpoint. You know, and the VPN is just another layer that you have to go through. Whether it protects, your packets and stuff where you're going, you're just going through another source. So that could even slow you down.
mm,
NordVPN or those things are good for browsing the internet, or if you want to try to get content from a different region that you're not, that you can't when you're in this region. So it was sort of uh, change your location around, to act like you're in, Singapore, but you're really in New York, right? Uh, so that's okay, but again, they're packet capturing everything because you're going through their VPN. So all that data that's going through a VPN provider, they're it's just another source that might be compromised. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just depending on what your use case is for that.
And Mommy said, "Thanks, Richard. Didn't know that. I thought I was safe already when I used VPN. I thought so too.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. If you're, typically I run into people who use VPN just to be able to stream something that it's in a different continent or a different location to be able to fool, the service so you can get it. But otherwise, I don't really use that except for work, because our work has VPN access.
Mm-hmm.
But those other companies, it depends on your use case. I would just base it on what you're trying to do, right? That's my knowledge on using a VPN product like NordVPN or there's other products out there. It's just another layer.
So cybersecurity is a hot topic too. What is something, if you had a tip that you wanted to share with folks about making sure that we are paying attention? Like, is there an educational resource or, I don't know, a podcast? Is there anything that you think that we might need to tap into to help us to be more familiar and aware? I do. I know I get I think it's weekly update from a particular person whose name I won't mention right now, but they send an alert for creators every week about different things that are happening, for instance, with YouTube security and that type of thing. And something really popped up that made me a little, not a little, but a lot anxious. They were saying that, what was it? Something to the effect that YouTube creators were getting an email saying their accounts were going to be shut down. And I just know there's just a lot of hot topics in the cyberspace. What's something that you think is top of mind that people need to be aware of and need to study a little bit more about when it comes to creating content?
I would say there's a lot of forums and some sites that give you alerts of any content that exploited that just came out, and that to be aware of. Like say something that Apple discovered that is compromised. You would, if you're signing up to those, like Apple's community or some other service that gives you cybersecurity news, latest news. There's a bunch of them out there, but you don't want to get too many of those. It's hard to keep track. But if there's a vulnerability like a 0 day, right, that just came out and it's hot and it's really bad.
What's a 0 day? What does that mean?
A 0 day, it's a vulnerability that just came, that's hot right now, that is
this is
being
like the
distributed
first day. Okay.
Right now. And so that's why, if you notice, Apple sometimes pushes updates that are like 50 megs or 100 megs that close that gap, right? Because it's affecting a certain product or service. But I would just be vigilant and also understand that, being aware of things around you, right? Because there's you may think you're safe, but there's people out there who are watching, and just to be careful. There are certain things. So, on my channel, which I'm going to hopefully start soon, I'm going to be going into that. So I'm going to educate, get into some of the basic terminology of, what is this? How, what are some of the things that affect this, and services and data, and educate people, so then maybe give them some comfort to be able to open up that cable modem, get in there and just look, because you ain't going to break nothing if you just look, right? And some of the
I don't know. I've been known to break things.
yeah, I mean, if you just look around, I can help, because everything is worded the same, but it might be just a different just a different letter or something, but it means the same thing, and that sometimes throws people off. But educating consumers and people, and YouTube content creators and everybody who want to subscribe, we'll get into that, get into the basics of data and how that works, and what are the things you can look for, because this is a big topic. It'll go on for days and days, and I want to share my knowledge to everybody.
Okay, Lala said, let us know. Dan says hello. Talk virtual. What's up, Erica? Scott says he gets some of that same stuff on FB. So Facebook. So here's what when I was asking Richard that, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, here's the thing. These are my Tanya tips that are not techie in any way, shape, or form, because I'm just going to call Richard. I'm going to be honest. Like, hey, this is happening. What do you think? What do I need to do? But here's my things that I live by right now. If something seems like it is too urgent, if I get an email or a text that says, hey, it looks like your channel is about to be terminated, you need to click here so that you can report blah, 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 or fill in this information, blah, blah, blah. If anything sounds a little funny and it's urgency tied with it, I'm not clicking that thing. Instead, I will go directly to the provider. So if it's YouTube that says they're sending it, I'm just going to go over to YouTube channel and see, did I get any type of notifications from within the space? If it's USPS, I got one of those texts today that said, hey, it looks like we're not going to be able to deliver this package. Spam, right? Because USPS is not sending me a personal text to say they couldn't deliver a package. They're not going to do that. But I do have an account with USPS.com. So I'm going out there and I'm going to send somebody in the customer service chat a note and say, I don't see any notifications in my account. did you send me something? And they're obviously going to say no because they're not texting us like that. So if something feels like it's too urgent, if it seems like it's too good or too bad to be true, you probably need to do some deeper dive. Would you agree, Richard, with that?
100%. 100%. I would agree with that. And also look at the wording, right? And fonts, because sometimes those fonts are just not what you particularly see, and the wording in the language that they use is not like, formatted of what you know. That gives
Yeah.
it away too. And just don't click on anything, because nobody's going to tell you you got a package or you got $1,000 waiting if you click on this link.
And
Best
they
thing to do
really
is
do
hover over
pray.
it and look at the link.
They prey on older people, y'all, too.
Yeah.
So I have my mother, bless her heart, my father-in-law has been taken. I mean, there's what they'll do is they'll prey on people that they think are not either savvy enough or don't know to ask the right questions. So check in on your elderly, parents, grandparents, and people in your family. Check in with them and ask them questions now and then to find out, hey, did you get something? It sounds, you were mentioning the other day that you sent somebody some money because your Android was acting up. Like, tell me more about that. Right. Because
Right.
they may not know the questions to ask, and we do. I'm seeing a lot of comments saying, first of all, Irene is saying, your channel, you need to let us know because it's going to be
Mhm.
of help. Um, Aging with Grace and Style, what's up, Valerie? Says, I get those all the time and don't click anything. And Scott, you are not old. I'm talking about people older than us, sir. But
Yeah.
us
And
too. Due diligence.
yes, and also where I work, we do send out campaigns to the employees and see how many times they click on it. And, if, be amazed. So, we try to train employees, how
Mm-hmm.
many people click on that stuff, and then give them some extra training, because it looks really real, but people still click on that stuff. And it's amazing how many times, they're still doing, even by accident. It's like, oops, still
Yeah.
logged, right? Because you still clicked it.
And by nature of what I do, Richard, we haven't really talked at length about this, but by nature of what I do, I get pulled into a lot of those conversations too on the corporate side of things. And
Yeah.
one of the things, again, besides the urgency, y'all, is if you are finding that what these campaigners are doing, what these bad actors are doing, is they're mimicking real life as much as possible. So their job is to figure out like what kind of stuff would this person react to or respond to? And how can I make it look like if there's a benefits email that usually comes out around this time of year, how can we mimic that email? They're going to have misspelled words like Richard said. They're
Mhm.
probably going to have some funky fonts in there. You definitely need to check to see who the true sender is because you may, although Google and Yahoo have changed this recently, but you still may see a name that looks like a name you recognize. But if you hover, you'll see the real address that it's coming from. And if it looks funky, again, don't click it. There's just things we have to really be careful about now. So
Yeah.
I've
And
learned a lot from you already, Richard, and I know time is
thank you.
short, but is there something that you would leave folks with relative to internet safety, security, stability? Any tips that you feel like you want to share? And then I want to pull up your website too so that they know how to find you.
Yeah, I recommend just be aware of your surroundings and where you are, because everybody, is looking to make a dollar and looking to compromise your data. You just, nowadays everything is on internet, and your banking and everything. So I would just be vigilant when you pull out your phone. I have a quick couple things on my YouTube channel that gives you some quick tips on what to do on your iPhone, so that if you do get your iPhone stolen or something like that, most people have their settings set so if you get a message, it pops up automatically without blurring it, and so they can see that code, and that's all they need. Once they get that code, then they get your access to your phone. So I go through that in quick, like 10, 15 seconds on some things to check. So just be vigilant. Nothing is free. And, if you have something that's in question, call the other end and, making sure that's real, or, sometimes to tell you to forward it over to, spamming or spoofing at, yourcableprovider.com, and they can analyze it and tell you if it's good or bad. So there are some things that you can do to help your your internet provider or whoever's sending it to you, and set up an alert, and they can block it on their end.
Love it. Is there on your YouTube channel? Tell me what your YouTube channel is, and I'll pull that up for folks.
It is it's at Cyber Defense DDI. So we go to YouTube.
Cyber Defense DDI.
Yep.
Is that it right there? I might have pulled it up wrong. Let's try it this way.
Let's see.
Cyber Defense
DDI
right here. Why am I not finding it? I might be putting it in wrong. There you are.
There you are, right there. There you go.
I see you. Okay. Right here. And you're building out things, just so people know. You're building out your content right now. So when folks go and they visit, just know that Richard's in the process of putting things together. You have a rich history of working with some major companies, which is one of the reasons why I was really intrigued about what you had to say. I don't know if you feel comfortable with talking about a couple of the companies that you've worked with over the years, but just so folks know, you know your stuff. Even if they don't see a whole bunch of content yet on your YouTube channel, I know it's coming. So I'm ready to support whenever you're ready to get that thing moving.
Thank you. Yeah. So some of the big places, Las Vegas, a lot of casinos, because all those slot machines and those tables are all connected. Six drops. So 6 drops meaning 6 Ethernet cables going into each of those tables. Also, universities, hospitals, airports. Also, TV studios, movie studios.
Do you partner up with small businesses, small studios, things like that to come and do assessments at all? Or is that something you plan to do, Richard?
Yeah. So before, I was a contractor, so I would go out and audit companies and do an audit and find out what's wrong. What are the loopholes? What can we do to make it better? Analyze the architecture and then give them a design recommendation on what I would do and what are the best practices to incorporate that and why. Because if you want to save a penny, you're gonna have to spend $1 because it's going to cost a lot of money, especially with being attacked by ransomware, stuff like that come in. That's a lot of money. So auditing and understanding of the architecture and making it better and redundant.
Love it. I just want to tell you thank you for coming and sharing a little bit of your time. I know you got some things to get to, but I have appreciated learning more. I know a few more techie words than I knew before. Before you came on the show. And I know others, if you have appreciation for what you've learned tonight, if you've gotten any nuggets that you can walk away with, please make sure you share some love for Richard in the comments and I'll pop it up for him. I know I see a couple already. Mommy Lala said, so true, so many scams. Thank you, Tanya and Richard. Right Mix for Business by Sue Ann. Thank you. Thank you so much for showing up and hanging out with us. Scott said, very helpful. So yeah, y'all, thank you so much for stopping by tonight and hanging out with us. We'll be back on next week, but I wanted to make sure to connect tonight and have my special guest. Yes, thank you for reminding me to tell people to like and subscribe.
Yes.
You know what? I tend to forget that, Richard, but I'll pop up something in a second that will remind me one more time. And again, Definitely support, be prepared to support Richard with shieldsup.live. If you saw that website link, it's going to have some information there if you need to reach out to him and ask any questions. And if you have questions that you want to leave in the comments section for him, do that too, because I'll make sure to connect him or connect them back and forward them to him so that he can respond. Right? Cool.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. It was a pleasure. I had fun. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Irene also said, thanks for hooking us up with Richard. So you don't miss that comment. All right. Let me go ahead and get ready to close us out. Folks, thank you so much again for showing up. It looks like I'm heading into the middle of a storm right now. They're telling us it might be hail, so it's probably good timing for us to disconnect, but I'm not gone forever. I'll be back next Thursday, same time, same channel, wherever you choose to watch on LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course, YouTube, which is my favorite space these days. And I haven't said this, but I'm going to say this now because I'll be sharing out an email about it over the weekend. But I'm going to be starting an Instagram live. It's just going to be about 15 to 20 minutes on Sunday nights. But in Instagram, we're going to do a couple of different series and just test out the space. I'm not committing to being there every week, but I'm committing to you that I am going to do a couple of series. One of the series is called top video marketing mistakes. Okay, so that's one. The other one is called What's in My Stack, that sounds fun to me. What's in my stack? So I'm going to talk about my tech stack and some of the apps and tools that I use for different parts of my workflows within my business, which I have a lot of workflows, y'all. You don't see it all because I'm just like doing the stuff behind the scenes and automating a lot of things. But I want to share that in my What's in My Stack series. So join me over on Instagram. We're at Get Noticed with Video there. I'm also standing back up Stream Like a Boss TV there as well. That's it for tonight's show. Tomorrow and over the weekend, I will share more about Instagram and the Ecamm Live Summit that's coming up, where I'll be speaking along with several other people. More to come on that, but look forward to making sure to communicate that information with you real soon. Take care. If you've got questions and want to hear about other specific topics, let me know. Just reach out via DM, say hello, and just, wave now and then. I'll stay connected with you, and I hope you'll stay connected with me. See you next time in the stream. All right, y'all. I got to do some reconfiguring, so I will close this out myself, but thanks again. We'll see you next time.